All right, so we're going to start with our listener question for the day. And it is, assuming you become close to someone you're discipling, your relationship and meetings can easily drift from the reason you started discipleship to simply hanging out with a friend. How do you keep the intentionality going? This is a good question. Andrew, I'm going to throw it
Yeah.
to you first.
Yeah, it is a good question because there's actually several in my mind as I was listening to you read it. I was like, man, there's different levels to this because intentional and relational. We actually did a show on that either last season or the season before, Abigail. I can't remember. So
Mm-hmm.
folks can, if they want to dive deeper into that dichotomy, then there's a show that they can scroll back and find where we talk about intentional versus relational disciple making. But in reality, they're not necessarily opposite. You can be relational as you're being intentional. But I think what the person was asking is you can lose that focus. So you start off and there's a clear goal to help this younger believer in the faith grow into maturity and become like Christ. And as time passes and that person is maturing, I guess you could say maybe you begin to become closer in your spiritual journey and in your maturity, and you're also becoming closer relationally, and so you can begin to lose some of that focused time in your time together. You can lose that purpose, and it can just move to hanging out. So I think we're always trying to help one another walk with Christ and make disciples. So even when you're a peer with someone spiritually, that's something that can be intentional about your time together, even though that the dynamic is going to look different. The way you relate to someone who's much younger than you in the faith and someone who's closer to you as a peer is going to look different, but you can hang on to that intentionality. And I think the way that you do that is you keep the focus on the mission itself, which is to walk with Jesus and to help others walk with Jesus. And so I can encourage someone who's at the same level of maturity as I am in my faith, and in terms of how are they walking with Jesus and helping others, and do they need encouragement? Do they need prayer? Where are they stuck? I do think the issues usually change as someone matures, but that's the first thing that came to my mind is keeping the focus on not just maturing, but regardless of where your maturity level is at, are you walking with Jesus and are you helping others? And what do you need to do that better? What do you think, Abby, when you hear that question or some of what I just shared? What comes to your mind?
Well, first off, this question was like, it's going to turn into hanging out like friends. And I'm like, I must be doing this wrong because I pretty much do that with like
Right.
my brand new disciples. It kind of looks like that. So
Yes.
right off the bat, I might not be the person you want to ask, but so you might just want to like tune out person who asked this question. But I think that the two things that help me to keep on track and not just become like a full hangout session that's, doesn't have any value to it. I mean, we want to have value, like you said, Andrew, even with our friends
Mm-hmm.
who, we're not discipling necessarily, but we're just, brothers and sisters in Christ. I think the two things that I really try to maintain in all my relationships with people I know I'm going to be spending time with is starting it off. Like if I know I'm going to hang out with someone today, then I want to start my morning off really praying for that person and that meeting time. And then usually, if there's something that the Lord brings up and, and my time in the Word or just for them, then I want to make sure that we talk on that
Mm-hmm.
or I share that, whatever it is. And then the other thing is just we always need to be asking good, intentional questions. I have some friends who are like truly just my friends that we are very much just laboring side by side in the harvest places. And some of them are just really fabulous at asking great questions that really make just our hangout times, like maybe even play date times, really great intentional time. And that can just be as simple as like, what is Lord showing you in the Word right now? Or, how can I be praying for you? And how are you, are there any struggles we need to talk about and share? Like, how is ministry going? How is it going with the people you are trying to disciple? So those are things that are questions we would ask a baby disciple, and then we would ask someone who's much more mature. So I think that really just stays all the way through our discipleship journeys and doesn't have to change at all. And I do just think, you literally answered your question in the question of, just by keeping it intentional, you're going to keep it intentional. It's really that simple. So I have no great insight, but hopefully that's at least encouraging that you're probably on the right track.
Oh, there was a lot of great insights there. As I was listening to you share the things that I grabbed hold of is, one, just be praying before you even meet with that person, which is great. We joke about the fellowship salad from Hebrews 10. And it really starts
We love
with consider how we may spur one another on. So fellowship really starts before you're even in the presence of that other person. And you really nailed that, Abigail, by being intentional before you even meet the person, before you even spending time with them. You're intentionally praying for them. And then, as you said, you're sharing what God's teaching you and asking good questions. I think that's great advice to keeping a discipleship relationship intentional, regardless of how long you've known the person.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, friends, if you have a question for us, do not forget to send it over to us at info@intotheharvest.org. We will get it. We would love to add it to a future show, whatever it is, great or small. We want to hear your questions. So send those over.